Thomas and the Guard is the 11th episode in the Thomas and Friends series. It's a more comfortable story, a return to form. Let's talk about what it does for Thomas as a character. Timestamps on screen, quick walkthrough coming up now, review after. I'll keep it brief. Thomas the Tank Engine is very proud of his branch line. He thinks it's the most important part of the whole railway, and he'll tell you that. His two coaches agree with him, of course. Annie can only take passengers, but Clarabelle can take passengers, luggage, and the Guard. They're old and they need new paint, but Thomas loves them dearly. As they run along the line, he sings to his coaches, and they sing along with him. The coaches don't mind whatever Thomas says to them, because they know he wouldn't be mad at them. He's just trying to please the Fat Controller. One day, they had to wait for Henry's train. He was very late, and Thomas is grumbling endlessly about it. When Henry finally limps in, looking quite sick, Thomas is too busy being angry to think critically about the situation and insults him. We get possibly the meanest sounding line in the entire show.
Rubbish! You're too fat. You need exercise.
The Guard blew his whistle, and Thomas shot off before the Guard was actually on board. The Guard waved his flag, but Thomas was trying to make up time and not paying attention. He was so consumed in his concerns about making up time that he didn't listen to his coaches either. They were telling him to stop. He only came to a stop when he came to a red signal. When the Guard didn't come to tell him what's wrong, he finally listened to Annie and Clarabelle, who were sobbing over the situation. So they waited. In the distance, they could see him running down the line after them. Very hot, very out of breath. So he had a drink and explained what had happened. Thomas apologized, but the Guard didn't hold it against him. When the signal went down, they took off again, trying to make up more time. Annie and Clarabelle were so happy to have their Guard back that they didn't mind Thomas going fast, and they sang on the way to the next station. Review time! I'm gonna be honest, guys, I probably have more to say about the visuals than the story and the character building. The music isn't anything that stands out, but the visuals on the branch line are wonderful. The sets feel so small in comparison to what's going on the main line. This is where the storybook roots really shine. The set at the start, with the tunnel where you can see the rails run by the road, it feels so right in a story like this. That brick bridge over the river is great, by the way. You've got people fishing on the other bank, and a little boat resting on the beach here. The windmill set, a fancy road bridge over the rails, Farquhar Station, the signal where Thomas gets stopped. Just every set is great here. If I was ranking on visuals alone, this would be a 10 out of 10, pulled right from a book. There's not many characters here to talk about. Annie and Clarabelle aren't much more than friendly but dramatic worriers. They're made to contrast Thomas. There are things to say about Thomas himself here. He loves where he's at, but he's still full of himself. He suddenly doesn't care about Henry's illness, which seems a bit odd to me, but I don't think it's actually out of character. When something is very important to him, he always misses out on the other details. Not listening to his driver in Thomas's train, forgetting Edward's warning in Troublesome Trucks, and now this. It's not a surprise, really. It's a reminder of how imperfect he still is. He's meaner than ever here, though, that's for sure. Aside from being super rude to Henry, he does sincerely apologize to his Guard towards the end of the episode. He goes from happy to angry to sorry and back to happy again, all in the span of pulling one branch line commuter service. I'd imagine things aren't always running late though, and most of the time he stays in a good mood. There is mention in the episode that when he's angry, Annie and Clarabelle know it's not with them, so you can assume he's still an irritable sort of guy, and his habit of taking it out on others extends to his coaches. He's still always in a hurry, but now it's because he feels the weight of his responsibility so deeply, and seems to think that it matters above everything else, including his Guard and his friends. I wouldn't say this is a step up from where he was before, but it's a change, and you can reasonably track where it came from. He started impatient just because he was impatient. He didn't want to wait for anything. Now he's impatient because he doesn't want to let the Fat Controller down. It's maturing, but only just, because he's still forgetting everything else. Conclusion. So, what am I going to give this episode? 9 out of 10. We pick right back up with Thomas and all of his flaws in a way that's not super jarring when its placement in the season is considered. It's impressive on its own. I get that it's just like that in the Railway series, but TV's a little different. Here, the episode as a whole is a self-contained character arc. We get a look at Thomas's life right now. We see a bad day, we see him mess things up for himself, and we see the Guard run in like some marathon runner and brush it off like nothing happened. Suddenly it's a good day again. Genuinely enjoyable episode, but there's better to be had. Quick warning, there's some changes coming in the new year, so this episode and the next one are going to be a little bit rushed. I'm working out the kinks, and I'll need more time for what's coming after Christmas. We'll talk more about that when we get there, though. But I have plans to make longer videos. I considered stretching out the reviews more and being more picky, but I don't think that's what anyone but me wants to see, and it's not exactly what I want to make. Not yet, anyway. More about that on Christmas, though. Next episode, we go fishing. Comment, like, subscribe, all that basic e-begging stuff. I'll see y'all next week.